Welcome back to my channel, everybody. My name is Candace, and I talk about living the global lifestyle, buying property abroad, and a whole bunch of random stuff, including geo arbitrage and just the soft power that comes when a woman can live a powerful global lifestyle. So for those of you who don't know, I moved abroad about 8 years ago. I moved to Rome, Italy, and it was a life-changing experience that has led me on this global journey. And I really like to share that journey with other people, especially with women who want to live a very particular type of curated, soft life. I remember when I was in the States, I was just feeling stuck. And I want to kind of touch on the difference between using the global lifestyle for expansion versus escapism. Although a little bit of escapism is not necessarily bad. But circling back to my life in the States, I can't sit here and say that I had a horrible life in the States because that would be untrue. But I will say that I was under a tremendous amount of stress. I owned a salon, and between my salon responsibilities and my home responsibilities, I was just feeling stuck. I did not have any romantic life. I barely had a social life unless that socialization had to do with business networking. I wasn't getting invites for like friendship and doing the things that I consider fun and meaningful to my life until I started traveling abroad. And then when I started meeting women abroad, that's when I started getting the invites to like the concerts and the picnics and let's meet for coffee and just chat. And that really did something for me. Living abroad, particularly in Rome, Italy, in a culture for the first time that truly prioritized relaxation, living la dolce vita, and really melting into family life and spending time with your friends and not being so obsessed on work or attaching your self-worth to what it is that you do, it was so healing for me. For the first time in my entire life, I can honestly say that I felt like I was thriving in my feminine. I think up until that point, I was teaching a lot about femininity. Those of you who know me from the Femininity Level Up movement and my books like The Black Girl's Guide to Living, Loving, and Traveling Abroad, I was trying to curate a life that was soft and feminine, but I wasn't truly able to live that, I think, on a day-to-day basis until I left the US. And so what I realized very quickly living in Rome is that I could live this existence that was detached from capitalism, detached from a lot of the things that gave me my initial worth in society, and really explore who I was as a woman and be woman first. And I think that was, particularly refreshing as a Black woman. But I often hear this repeated by women of all walks of life who lived in countries where things are hyper focused on productivity and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and the work that you do and the degree that you have. And to come to a culture where you can be yourself, where yes, obviously you're doing things, you're working, you are creating things for yourself, and you might be pursuing education even, but that's not the total sum of who you are. I really want to talk a little bit about the difference between escapism and expansion, because this global life can be extremely expansive in the most beautiful way. I think how you know the difference is really the energy. Some people do move abroad to escape feelings. They're escaping situations. They're escaping family. They're escaping, whatever difficulties they're going through in their home country, hoping that they are going to find something else on the other side of the rainbow that wasn't there if they just moved to another location. And, moving abroad is kind of interesting because you go through these phases of living abroad, and one of those phases is the honeymoon phase. So I think a lot of people get caught up in wanting to experience a honeymoon phase where everything is beautiful because, you know, everything is like new and fresh and, you know, they're chasing that feeling. But one of the things that I've learned on this global journey is you take yourself with you wherever you go. So you do have to learn how to unpack your issues. You do have to learn how to unpack your issues so that you can truly thrive abroad. And I think once you unpack your issues, once you get into this mode of surrender, that's when you can truly be expansive, because the world is such a big place. And I literally just had this conversation this afternoon with one of my new friends that just moved abroad, you know, this afternoon for lunch. And I was telling her how, though the world can feel like a big place, there are so many global opportunities. And this is where that expansion for creativity comes in, because when you see the world for what it is, and that it's your oyster, and that, you know, that's like your pearl, and you can literally create whatever it is that you want for yourself, you can start being very strategic. And so I feel like when you're talking about global expansion, I think you're coming from a place of intentionality and also strategy. So creating this strategy for yourself where you're finding this path of least resistance. This path of least resistance can look very different for everybody. Important to know that this global expansion is not a cookie cutter. It's not one size fits all. It's going to look different for everybody, and that's okay. Let's also talk about how the soft life isn't laziness. The soft life abroad is about intentional peace, intentional pleasure, and intentional abundance. It's also about positioning and understanding that by expanding your global options, you can position yourself in ways that maybe you couldn't if you were staying in one location that feels very familiar to you. So, what are the keys to living the soft life abroad? One, and this is the very first thing, it is living in grace versus grind. And having grace, it means a lot of different things. Grace versus grind means being gentle with yourself, meaning pacing yourself, meaning setting out your days intentionally where you are prioritizing your well-being, that you don't have to get everything done in one day. It's okay. And showing yourself kindness, because I really believe that when you lead with being kind to yourself, it's easier to be kind to others. I remember when we lived in Rome in particular, and we still pretty much do this. So particularly when we lived in Rome, I remember on Mondays, that would be our planning day for the week. And so my daughter and I would post up at a cafe for the day, and I would just ask her questions like, how are you feeling this week? What's coming up for you? What do you want to learn this week? What do we want to learn together? And what's going to best serve us this week? And we would start out our week with these intentional planning days. And this would allow us to get a lot of things done without being in the grind mode. And I know that a lot of people feel like you need to hustle and grind to get things done. But I truly believe as women, we thrive more when we are in the flow and in grace than in the grind. And so I think having these moments where you can be intentional about how you're planning out your week will allow you to do this. The second key to living this soft life abroad is choosing peace versus pressure. So just really understanding what it is that you need, what it is that you want, and what brings you peace, and really being in tune with your body so that you understand what peace feels like versus pressure. And I do believe that you can live in a state where you are living in this peace. Even now when things feel so crazy, things are going on in the world that feel really crazy and beyond our control, you can still live in this peace. And how you do that is by letting go of the things that you cannot control. You can also live in this peace by shutting out the voices. Minimize watching the news. Minimize surrounding yourself with negative people or people who always want to talk about all of these negative things. Even minimizing certain talks about politics. I know that can sound controversial, especially now, but I do believe to live in the peace, you have to be able to do that. And that doesn't mean that you don't care about certain things that are going on in the world, but you have to be able to put them in certain places so that you can focus on what you can control and thriving. Choosing peace also looks like saying no when you've taken on the maximum that you can handle. And no is okay to say. Like, I had to learn that. Like, as a person, I was a people pleaser because of my abandonment issues. Learning how to say no to people was so hard because I just wanted people to like me so bad. Like, I just really wanted people to like me. And I was so scared that if I said no to somebody, they were not going to like me anymore or not want to be my friend. And, you know, now that I'm older and wiser and have a better sense of self and I love myself, saying no has helped me preserve a lot of peace in life. So know when to say no and know that it's okay. So the third key to living the soft life abroad is being feminine, safe, well-rested, and well-loved. I'll say that again. It's being feminine, safe, well-rested, and well-loved. I'm going to tell you right now, you cannot thrive as a woman that's living in her feminine or trying to live in her feminine if you do not feel safe. And one of the things that I immediately felt when I moved abroad was much safer. Europe in general is extremely safe. The number one crime in most countries is pickpocketing, for goodness sake. And living in a country that you feel safe in honestly helps your nervous system to relax. And when your nervous system relaxes, your cortisol levels go down, your stress levels go down. And then you can find yourself being able to tap into this feminine energy that you weren't able to do before because you were hyper vigilant about your safety. This is especially true for my American women because a lot of American women do not understand the amount of stress that they are under simply having to be hyper vigilant about your safety. This also is true for women who are coming from countries that have a lot of political unrest, that have like a lot of, you know, war going on, things like that. When you are concerned about your safety, you just cannot thrive. So this is very important. Also, just being well rested, being able to get enough sleep, get the nutrients that you need, getting the fresh air, getting the fresh food that you need. I mean, for me, that has been so key to my health. And one of the main reasons why I stay abroad, because having access to food that doesn't have as many chemicals in it, in the foods, and then also being in cultures that value having an active lifestyle has been so refreshing. So I have a lot of friends who will just say, oh, let's take a walk. Or, you know, especially in the States, we drive everywhere. Even if it's like 5 minutes down the street, people will prefer to drive. And then just having my friends that are from this part of the world, they're just like, oh, you know, that's just a 20-minute walk. Let's walk to get some exercise. It's so healing and it's changed my mindset. And getting that extra exercise helps me to release the stress. My cortisol levels are lower. And then, you know, rest well at night. So making sure that you're well rested. These are the keys for living the soft life abroad, and some of the adjustments that you might have to make. And then I think going where you're well loved, and that can look like a few different things. I mean, obviously, I think you should definitely go where you're treated best. And that's something that the Nomad Capitalist says a lot. And I really love his platform. You know, and I totally resonate with that, going where you're treated best, because you should. And going where you're treated best, like I said, means different things to different people. For some people, that's going to look like, going where they don't have to experience as much racism or colorism. That might look like you going places where you have more dating options. This might also look like where you can, places that you can go where you have more business options, job opportunities. And then it might also look like where you can go for, financial gain or education. And so just understanding that well-loved can look like different things for different people. All of it's okay, but you have to understand what it is that you need and what it is that you're looking for and go to those places. And when you have those things, you are going to find this soft life waiting for you. And so the very last piece to this soft life abroad is having emotional and financial freedom while you are living abroad, not just the vacation vibes. Because I will tell everybody, living in a place versus vacationing in a place, there are two totally different experiences, and you cannot confuse the two. And a lot of times people get caught in the vacation vibes / honeymoon phase. And once that wears off, they're just kind of like, what do I do now? Or, oh my God, things weren't what, I thought they were going to be. So finding these places and spaces where you can have that emotional freedom, where you can have the financial freedom is going to be key. I meet a lot of women, and this is the first thing that comes to mind, is like a lot of women that teach English. A lot of people teach English as a gateway to living abroad, but I feel like teaching is a calling. Like not everybody's meant to be a teacher, just like not everybody's meant to be a nurse or a healthcare professional. It is a calling, truly. And if that calling is not on your life, that will lead to burnout very quickly. And so you have a lot of people who don't know how to escape that. They have made no plans to escape that, and they're reaching their breaking point when it comes to that. So understanding those key components of how to leverage to create financial freedom. That's investments, property, learning how to start different streams of income. That will help you to create this beautiful path of least resistance while you are living abroad. Let's talk about mindset. You have to have the right mindset if you are a woman who wants to live abroad and live this beautiful, soft life in the path of least resistance. So when it comes to your mindset, you have to believe that you deserve more in life. You have to believe that there is something better for you on the other side of wherever it is you are currently. If you don't deeply believe that you deserve that, then you're going to feel like all of this is impossible for you. Now, this is particularly for my Black women out here, and that is unlearning this strong Black woman survival script that you have been taught, that you have to be strong, that you have to take on all of the world's problems, that you have to be the savior, that you have to be the brave one all the time. And that's not to say there aren't moments that you do have to have courage and be brave or be strong, but taking that on as the core piece of your persona as a woman, you have to leave that behind when you are embodying this new mindset to live the soft life abroad. The third piece for your mindset is that femininity is not weakness. Femininity is everything but weak, because feminine energy is so expansive and creative and powerful. And so, just embracing this new feminine mindset that your creativity potential is limitless, and that femininity does not equal broke or weak or naive. Put all of that behind you and understand that by tapping into your feminine energy, you have, tapped into this beautiful flow of energy that is ever present within you and has all of the expansiveness of our entire universe, and right there at your disposal. So making sure that you shift that mindset if you currently feel that femininity is weakness. It's not. The very last piece is understanding that you don't have to have this thing 100% figured out before you start. I'm telling y'all, I didn't know what I was doing when I started. I didn't. And that's one reason why I'm here to help you, because I try to give you as many tips as I can so that you don't feel like you're starting from scratch. But you don't have to, have this entire thing figured out before you decide to get started on your global journey. There is room for you to learn as you grow, and making sure that you're tuned in to content creators like myself that have a lot of knowledge and have a lot of experience with this global lifestyle will help you to do this thing in a way where you're not making a lot of mistakes. Because yes, I get it. Living abroad can be very scary. The world can seem extremely big and like a very scary place at first, but you can learn, you can grow, you can learn as you go, and that's okay. Now let's talk about how you can start your own soft life abroad global journey, even if you're not rich. I think the first step is to find a starter country that you can afford to live in comfortably. The key to this is making sure you choose a country that is affordable and safe. Those two things, affordable and safe. And then the third piece that I would add on would be has at least relatively decent healthcare. Once you find that starter country, you can use that as a home hub to travel and explore other countries. You can use this starter country and living in these countries maybe for 60 to 90 days at a time to reduce your bills. So maybe you're not ready to completely pack it all up and leave everything you know behind for a year or more, or a more permanent move, but you can use this type of starter country as a way to reduce your monthly bills for periods of time during the year so that you can save the money and you can use that money to maybe pay off debts that you have, or to maybe pay a little bit more of your rent down, or increase your savings, or purchase a property, or anything. You can use leveraging this as a way to reduce the bills. And to be honest with you, this is a big component of geo arbitrage. This is what geo arbitrage is. The next piece is going to be starting a stream of income that is online. No, you don't have to all of a sudden start working online, but my advice to you is to start at least one stream of income that can be made online. That might look like selling a digital product. That might look like having online courses. That might look like teaching online. That might look like a couple of different things, but making sure that you have an online stream of income will help you with your global flexibility when it comes to creating money and income. The last key is using a more slow relocation strategy where you plan these intentional go-see trips so that you can really visit an area, get to know people, get to know the place, maybe even start meeting local people and other foreigners who've moved there to build some sort of connection to the place before you decide to just throw all of your money into relocating to a place, because relocating can be expensive. And I know people who have not done a proper go-see and they decided to move to an area and now they hate it. And it's like they spent all their money to move to a place and it is what it is. They're going to have to stick it out until they can, figure out something different. But using this slow relocation method will allow you to really test the waters before you go all in head first. Here are a few practical tips to really do the proper research that's necessary for you to live your soft life abroad. And number one is doing your cost of living research. really understand how much it's going to cost you to live the type of lifestyle that you want to live. You're not moving abroad to struggle. And I've seen some people give some kind of really wonky advice for people wanting to like really rush and get out of the States in particular that I do not agree with, because I really don't think you want to move abroad and work someplace as a waiter, because the wages are extremely low and you're really going to have to downgrade your life. That might be an option, maybe perhaps if you find yourself not having any employment and you're homeless and you just need a way out. But I don't recommend it, because I have seen people struggling abroad, like can't even get a plane ticket home because they have listened to this type of advice. So I don't advise that. So make sure that you do cost of living research to know what you can actually afford. Number 2, you're going to search out visa options, short-term and long-term stay options, so that you know when you are going to these various countries that you know how long you can legally stay in that country. Also, so that you can create a strategy of how you're going to stay in a particular country long term, because you might find a country that you really like, and maybe as a US citizen or whatever citizen you are, whatever your nationality is, that your particular nationality can only stay in said country for X amount of days or X amount of months, and then you might have to do a border run or something like that. So just research that out very well so that you can create a strategy for yourself that will allow you the path of least resistance. Next up is where to find housing and safety tips. You want to live someplace safe. So making sure that you're doing those neighborhood searches and making sure you understand how safe it is to live in certain areas, particularly as a foreigner. Number 4 on the list is making sure to build a network before you go and while you're there on your go-see. So tapping into those Facebook groups, apps like meetup.com are really essential so you can start building connections and friends even before you touch down. Lastly, travel smart as a woman. Yes, although there are a lot of places that are much safer than others, you still want to have street smarts wherever you go, and make sure that you're traveling smart. Outside of the safety piece, I feel like traveling smart also includes understanding what it is that you need for your life and what you can get out of each country. Like if you need high levels of healthcare, or you're concerned about your fertility, or you want beauty treatments or access to beauty treatments, or whatever it is that you want access, understand what it is that you need, find countries that match, and then strategize in that way. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I wish I knew before I decided to live abroad. And one of those things is that peace will sometimes feel unfamiliar, and you have to get used to that. When your nervous system is healing, that new level of safety and peace can sometimes feel strange. You have to give yourself time to unpack all of the things that you will be experiencing on an emotional level as you move abroad. And that includes loneliness, the deterioration of certain friendships and relationships that you held dear back home, limiting beliefs, all sorts of things. You have to unpack that. So just know that peace might not feel familiar at first, and you have to get used to it. I think also you have to be willing to shut down the voices of limitations. Other people will project their limitations about their life onto you. They will question your decision and make you feel like you don't deserve to live a global lifestyle. They will make you feel like you are abandoning other people by choosing this lifestyle, and all sorts of other things. So just know that it's a projection and shut those voices down. And with all of that being said, understanding again, you may lose people, but in the end, you will find yourself. And that is the most important thing. I think the last thing that I wish I knew before I started living abroad is that you do have to have a certain level of discipline and feminine energy in order to truly thrive abroad. And those two things together really is where the magic happens. And you know, I don't even like to call it discipline. I like to call it devotion. So when you have that devotion and that feminine piece comes together, you create like this goddess-like energy that is so creative and, like I said earlier, expansive. So remember, it's the devotion plus the feminine coming together to help you to create this beautiful global lifestyle. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh my God, Candace, I love everything that you're saying and I really want to live this lifestyle, I want to go ahead and invite you to my private community, the Soft Power Passport community. This is a community that I created because there are so many women who ask me a variety of questions that I don't necessarily feel comfortable discussing in public. There's a lot more that I have to say, but I would prefer to say it in private, especially about dating abroad. There are some conversations that I feel just need to happen amongst the girls, and I don't like to air all of that out online because I'm just like, yeah, you need to have some kind of feminine mystique. So if this is you, I'm inviting you to join my community where you can have access to the really good stuff, the really good advice, and the community of women who are looking to level up their lives abroad, buy property abroad, start businesses abroad, and really create a unique global lifestyle. In the Soft Power Passport community, you will receive mentorship from me, advice, tips, and even personalized strategies for your life living abroad. So if this sounds like something that you want to be a part of, I'm going to drop the link in the description box and you can click that link to join our exclusive community. So I just want you to remember that the soft life abroad is a choice. It is a conscious, intentional choice. That it's not about running away, but it's about rising into your softness that is extremely powerful. So remember, your passport is your permission slip. Choose yourself. I want you to go ahead and subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, save this video. And again, make sure that you're following me on all of my platforms because I really want to get the chance to know you. Leave what you think about this video in the comments and we will talk in the next video. Ciao.